In this video, you're going to make the menu responsive using Flexbox. So when you reduce the width of your browser, the menu items are going to be wrapped into new rows like this. And then at some point, the menu will turn to a vertical menu like this. So let's go ahead and do this. So at the moment, if I go to the styling of the menu, I can see that we are placing links inside list items, and we're making the list items float to the left. Now, if you design your layouts using Flexbox, you don't need the float property anymore. Also, we're going to have another change here. Instead of placing links inside list items, we're going to get rid of the list items and have our links there inside the Flexbox. So I'm going to go back to the index.html file and remove the lists and list items and keep the links alone inside the menu div. All right. So I'm going to pause the video and do this. So now I've got only the links inside the menu. So what's going to happen now is that we're going to make the menu a Flexbox, and then the links inside it are going to become flex items. So let's go ahead and do this. Now, I'm going to need also to remove anywhere selecting the list items. So instead of selecting the list items, we're just going to select the links directly. And we don't need to style the list anymore, as it doesn't exist. All right, and we've got this one as well. Now this is how our current layout looks like. Now let's turn the menu to a Flexbox by setting the display property to Flex. Also, since we need to wrap the flex items into a new row like this, we're going to need to set the flex wrap to wrap. So now if I reduce the width of the browser, you can see that we are wrapping the links into a new row. Now, since we are using Flexbox, we don't need the float property anymore. So I'm going to remove that for the links, which are our flex items now. Now let's have a look at the final layout. If you reduce the width of the browser to a certain point, then you can see that the Flexbox turns to a vertical Flexbox. So you're going to need to change the direction of the Flexbox to column below a certain width of our screen. So let's go ahead and do this. So to do this, you're going to use what is called a CSS media query. A CSS media query will allow you to specify a certain styling for a specific media. So you could target computer screens, you could target the preview of a printout, and so on. There are so many screen types that you can target. Also, you can specify the maximum width or the minimum width that you're targeting. So in our example, we're going to be targeting a maximum width of 700 pixels, for example, because we want to style small screens in which the menu is going to become vertical. So what we're doing now, we are setting the menu to turn to vertical in small screens. So the syntax is as following. So you use @media followed by the type of the media. So we're targeting computer screens. So I'm going to specify screen here. Also, I'm going to be targeting screens with a maximum width of 700 pixels. So I'm going to use and then inside parentheses, max with 700 pixels. And then after that, I'm going to have curly brackets, and inside the curly brackets, I'm going to put my styling. So the styling that you put there is similar to the styling that you put inside your styling sheet. So you start with a selector, and then inside curly brackets, you put your styling. So I'm going to select the menu, just like I did there. And then I'm going to choose the styling that I want. So basically what's going to change here is the flex direction, which I'm going to set to column. And we may add something else, but for now, let's just see how it looks like. So I'm going to reduce the width of the screen to 700. Let's refresh the page and see how it looks. So this is not exactly what we wanted, since we wanted a vertical menu like this. But if you check your code, you'll see that the height of the menu is set to 70 pixels, which means that the columns, when we switch to a column direction, they overflow to the right of the flexbox. So this is actually a column direction, and each item is actually inside a column, but the height of the flexbox means that these columns are actually overflowing to the right of the container. So all we need to do is get rid of the height property, and then you'll see that there is only one column now. If you go to a height of 150 pixels, you can see two columns there. But for now, let's just get rid of the height and leave it like that. Now let's make a couple of improvements to our menu. If you look at the final layout, you can see that the items inside the menu are censored horizontally. So we can do this easily by using the align content property, since we are using the column flex direction. So align content, which I'm going to set to center. Also, let's get rid of this border by selecting the links and going to the border right property. So let's go to the menu and then to the links inside it, and let's set border right to none. All right, now it looks like our menu is fully responsive. And if we compare our layout with the final layout, we can see a small difference in size, and we can rectify that by adding some padding to our menu. So let's go ahead and do this. So instead of 7 pixels, I'm going to go for 20 pixels, for example. So this looks good. And if I reduce the width of the container, our menu becomes vertical with no borders. Perfect. Now let's move to the next section, which is this one. And it looks like we don't have to make any changes there, because it looks like the current layout matches the final one. So we can move to the sidebars. So in the final layout, you can see that the sidebars occupy roughly 50% of the width of the container. And if you reduce the width of the browser, at some point, they go one on top of the other. So we're going to need to do this using Flexbox, and that's what you're going to do in the next video.